Makingascene.org brings you reference levels and Lufs, what loudness really means today.
Welcome to this explainer. Today we're mapping out the journey ahead for the indie artist. We're going to look at these crucial audio concepts almost like chapters in a graphic novel of modern mastering. We'll hit the end of louder, what LUFS actually means, the -14 trap, 3 levels of referencing, the simple mastering chain, and finally winning the modern game. All right, let's dive right in and take control of your sound.
Chapter 1. The End of Louder. The loudness wars are over. So let's dive into this tale of two worlds, right? In the old world, there was this time when literally the loudest record in the room felt like the absolute winner. If your track jumped out of the speakers harder than the next artist's, well, you thought you had the advantage. Louder meant stronger, it meant surviving radio compression and cheap earbuds. But, that brute force era of the loudness wars and just completely crushing limiters, it's mostly gone. Welcome to the new world. Today, your song is handled by streaming platforms that use streaming normalization. Think about it. Spotify balances soft and loud songs around -14 LUFs. Apple Music has soundcheck. YouTube uses automatic volume adjustments. They're all actively trying to keep listeners from having to grab the volume knob every 3 minutes. It's a totally different ballgame now.
Chapter 2. What Lufs actually means. Measuring loudness. All right, meet our new hero, Lufs. It stands for Loudness Units Full Scale. Now, I know that might sound a little intimidating at first, but the concept is actually brilliant. See, a normal peak meter just acts as a warning light, basically telling you how close your digital signal gets to clipping. Lufs, on the other hand, tries to tell you how loud the music actually feels to a human ear over time. Because as we know, our ears don't hear all frequencies the exact same way. A really bass-heavy mix can use a ton of energy without sounding anywhere near as loud as a bright, piercing vocal. Lufs looks at loudness much closer to how people actually experience sound in the real world. And integrated Lufs, which is the big one for streaming, well, that measures how loud the whole song feels from the very start all the way to the finish.
A direct quote from Makingascene.org really hits the nail on the head here. They say loudness starts in the mix. This is exactly why relying only on a peak meter just isn't going to cut it anymore. Why? Because density matters. If your bass is just way too good, your limiter is going to react to the bass instead of the whole song. Or, if your snare jumps out 6 decibels louder than everything else, the entire master gets held back. Picture it like this. A limiter just fighting for its life against unchecked, muddy low end. You absolutely cannot fix all of that by simply dragging a limiter threshold down at the very end and crossing your fingers that your song becomes competitive. Moving on to Chapter 3, the -14 trap, not a creative boss. Okay, so the absolutely crucial point is this specific number, -14 LUFs. This has somehow become the main villain for so many indie artists today. They hear that Spotify normalizes to -14 and suddenly they think it's a law. They think their job is to master every single song to hit that exact number. Guys, that is a total myth. -14 is a playback reality check. It is not a creative prison for your tracks. Actually, many commercial releases are much, much louder than that. If you push a weak mix just to match a loud number, you're going to end up with a tired master full of distortion. But on the flip side, if you force a dense, driving rock track to stay perfectly at -14, it might lose all its energy. And that brings us to our unsung hero, True Peak. True Peak is that quiet little detail that literally saves your master from sounding cheap and distorted after it's encoded by the streaming platforms. You see, a regular digital peak meter only looks at the sample points in your audio file. True Peak, however, actually estimates what happens between those sample points during digital conversion. Without it, your file might look totally fine on a regular meter, but then it creates hidden intersample clipping when Spotify or Apple Music actually processes it. It's a real lifesaver. Makingascene.org gives us these really specific, real-world True Peak guidelines to follow. If your master is around -14 LUFS, you want to keep your True Peak below -1 dBTP. Now, if you're mastering louder than that, keep it below -2 dBTP. Why? Because louder tracks are just far more likely to suffer extra distortion when they get encoded for streaming. Leaving this headroom isn't a sign of weakness, guys. It is professional delivery to ensure your music stays clean everywhere it's played.
Chapter 4, 3 levels of referencing, keeping ears honest.
To get your master translating perfectly everywhere, you've got to master this triad of referencing. First up, your listening level. Think about it. If you mix quietly one day and then painfully loud at midnight the next, your ears are absolutely going to lie to you. You need a fixed, comfortable monitoring level so your decisions come from balance, not just volume hype. Second, commercial reference tracks. Pull in tracks that actually match your genre. Please don't compare a raw acoustic Americana track to a completely crushed EDM master. It just doesn't make sense. And third, platform behavior. Remember that Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube don't all behave the exact same way on every single device. Your ultimate goal is to make a strong master that survives all of these different playback systems.
Chapter 5. The Simple Mastering Chain. No spaceship needed.
Let's walk through this 5-step sequence, kind of like panels in our comic book here. Step 1, gentle EQ. This is just to clean up any low-end buildup or maybe soften some harshness. Step 2, a compressor to add a little bit of glue if the mix actually needs it. Step 3, a saturation tool or a clipper. This is great to shave off fast peaks right before the limiter. Step 4, your limiter, which usually comes near the end to set your final loudness and your ceiling. And finally, step 5, a loudness meter, to check your integrated Lufs and your true peak. Now you can use free tools like Ulean Loudness Meter or professional suites like FabFilter Pro L2 or Isotope Ozone. But remember, the tool itself isn't the secret here. The real secret is knowing exactly what you're asking the tool to do.
Chapter 6. Winning the Modern Game. Focus on translation.
All right, so we arrive at the ultimate question, right? How loud should an indie artist actually master? Well, the honest answer for makingascene.org is this. Loud enough to feel finished, but not so loud that the song loses its reason to exist. A softer folk or jazz track might live beautifully around the open end of -14 LUFS. Heavy electronic or rock, that might push a bit louder. The real question isn't what magic number should I hit. The real question you should be asking yourself is, how far can I push this limiter before the punch flattens out, the vocal gets small, and the cymbals just smear together? Once the song stops getting better, you gotta back off.
Now, I'm going to give you the ultimate cheat code for mastering, volume-matched referencing. If you really want to learn loudness fast, you absolutely have to stop comparing songs at different playback levels. Bring a commercial reference track into your DAW, but route it so it totally bypasses your mastering chain. Then, and this is the real secret here, turn it down until it feels about the exact same loudness as your mix. Now you can compare them honestly. If the reference is louder, basic biology tells us you'll automatically think it sounds better. But by turning it down to match your mix's volume, you remove that psychoacoustic trick and make honest, non-hyped comparisons.
So what does this all mean? What is the true cost of overlimiting? Well, a crushed master feels tiring, and that's going to cause fans to skip your track way faster. Nobody wants that. Plus, it gets passed over by music supervisors because there's just literally no dynamic space left in the audio to work with picture. But most tragically, it hides the emotional human performance. You need the vocal to connect. You need the groove to move people. Your master's basically the sound of your store window. It travels everywhere from Spotify to your EPK, so please don't sand the life off your record before the fan even gets a chance to know you.
I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought to close out our story today. The goal is not to be the loudest file uploaded this week. You aren't trying to win a meter fight. Loudness today is all about translation. It's about making a record that feels completely alive when the listener turns up their volume knob. So use your meters, know your LUFs, definitely respect true peak, but never, ever hand your song over to a number and call that mastering. Does your record sound powerful when the platform does its job? Because, my friends, that is how you win the modern game.
Make sure you check out the other great articles and resources on makingascene.org, the place the indie artist goes to build the new music industry.